Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our presentation with our sister company and strategic partner, Netspend. One of the hallmarks of our advanced partner service for our staffing firm clients is to provide industry information and collaborative conversations on business development and how we can grow together. And so we're very pleased to present everything you want to know about pay cards today. Before we get started, I'm going to flip this to our magic man behind the curtain, Alan, who's going to go over a few housekeeping items. Alan?
Thank you, Jeannie. So a few things to note. First, note that the primary audio connection for this session is via your computer. It's streaming via those computer speakers. So be sure to check your speaker volume in your listening device or headset to ensure it is turned on and volume is at an audible level. To refresh or reload your browser, press the F5 key. If you have questions during today's webinar, you can ask them via the Ask Us a Question window. And to submit that question, simply key in the text that you'd like and press Submit. I do want to mention, due to the number of participants on today's webinar, it may not be possible for us to get to each question submitted individually. We will have a Q&A session near the end of today's session where we will address some of the questions that folks will be asking and address some frequently asked questions that come up on this topic. To download and print a copy of today's content, please refer to the Files and Resources window at the top right of the console. This should be a PDF of the slides and is available anytime during the event. I also want to mention this webinar is being recorded, and we will send everybody a link to a page that will house the recording following the event via a post-event email. And if you experience any technical issues during the broadcast, select that help widget, which is the question mark icon for the most common issues and resolutions. Jeannie, back to you.
Thank you so much, Alan. I appreciate you. Just real quickly, if we could look at the agenda, these are the topics we're going to cover today, and I'm very pleased to introduce our presenter. Carrie Staut is with Netspend, as I said, our sister company and strategic partner. Carrie has over 32 years in the financial services industry, and everything you want to know about pay cards, she can answer. Carrie, take us away.
Thank you, Jeannie. I appreciate the introduction. And yes, we've got a lot of information that we're going to cover today. So let's get kicked off, shall we? First, just a really quick overview. Netspend is a company that is owned by Global Payments, and Global Payments is the world's only complete e-commerce commerce ecosystem. We're made up of 3 different sections of our business. So we do merchant processing, we have issuing processing, and then of course Netspend is our business and consumer solutions, where we work with a lot of companies, especially in the staffing arena, to make sure that they have the right tools and things in place to help their specific employee base. Today, what I really want to do is focus on you, right? You have specific goals and objectives. You have businesses that you're running today and in very challenging times. I think one of the things that we've all been living through and we all know is that we've had probably the tightest labor market that we've had in the past 50 years. So it's been a very big challenge for everyone to get people not only to apply for positions, but to show up for interviews and actually show up when they're hired. So knowing this and knowing the challenges that you face each and every day, we put down that, some of the goals that you guys have and objectives would be to obviously improve the payroll process, right? Everything that you do when it comes to the payroll area, it is time consuming. It can be a very large lift for many companies, especially those staffing firms that are hiring such a large number of individuals each and every week. So we know that this is a challenge, and that any way that we can help you make that much more efficient is going to be a benefit to you and a cost savings to you as well. You definitely want to save time. Saving time is saving money. So being able to get away from those paper paychecks is going to be important. It's interesting today. I know we're in 2023, And I've worked with some companies that literally were still writing thousands of paper paychecks a week. So they were paying their individuals weekly and they were writing thousands of paper checks each week. The cost of that and the risks associated with writing paper checks is pretty difficult. It's pretty enormous, and it's a difficult process to continue. So we want to make sure that that's one of the areas that we want to focus on. And who doesn't want to increase and improve employee retention, recruiting, and productivity? Because it's important for us today. We don't want to have the same turnover rates that we've had during COVID. We'd love to get back to, I know that you guys would love to get back to pre-COVID levels of turnover, which were much, much lower than they are currently. Things are getting slightly better, I know, and I hope for each and every one of you things have gotten better, but they're still not quite where we want them to be. So increasing our employee retention is obviously a cost savings activity for everyone. And of course, offering employees the ability to get to their wages as quickly as they can and for free. It's important that an employee can get their wages their way. I think one of the other reasons why this is such an important goal for all of us is that we've seen a very big change in the employee base. So we now have millennials and actually Gen Z have become much more of a factor in our employee bases today. In fact, the millennials, I should say, have outnumbered Gen Xers in the workforce 2-to-1. So there are 80 million millennials and there's only 40 million of us Gen Xers. So their mindset and the way that they feel that's important to get paid is kind of different than most of the Gen Xers from the previous generation. And then Gen Z is also in that same kind of mindset. And they're looking for tools and solutions that are different than some of your previous the previous generations have really looked for. So that's why we really wanted to focus on your goals and objectives. And these are some of the things that as we talk to our current staffing clients, these are the things that are super important to them. So I've already kind of highlighted a little bit, but ongoing turnover challenges continue within the labor market. So even today, we're finding that more and more jobs are being created. But the challenge is we don't have more and more individuals coming and trying to fulfill those particular jobs. I was at a conference this week, and one of the things that I heard loud and clear, and I'm sure that each and every one of you has faced, is that sometimes it's easy to get an applicant to apply for the position, but it can be very difficult to get them to actually interview and can be very difficult to actually get them to show up for the job that they have accepted. So I know that these are the challenges that you're faced with today. And, there's some uncertainty in, of course, our economic environment. We've got a continuation of inflation. I know that the Fed is trying to do everything they can to help bring that down. We've got a slight banking crisis going on behind the scenes. So there's just a lot of things happening, and it's driving the decisions that employees are making as well as employers are making. So we know that this is a challenging time for each and every one of you. And that's one of the reasons why we focus in on not only the challenges that you're facing, but how do we help offset those? How do we bring solutions that will be a benefit to each and every one of our clients that are, especially our staffing clients? So some of the biggest impacts for the hardest hit. So again, I mentioned this already, but we are seeing that 38% of the workers that we have surveyed are still being paid by a paper check. And that's for a lot of different reasons, right? I do understand, and you're probably thinking that, gosh, some of these employees actually require it or ask for it. But I think one of the things that is super important in this day and age is that we want to get those individuals to move away from the paper paycheck for many reasons. Not only is there a large cost to the employer, but there's also a large cost to the employee. An employee taking a paper paycheck is going to have to take it to a bank or a check casher to get cash. and they're not going to get the full amount of the wages that they are due. And so there's a real negativity around getting that paper check. But from an employer perspective, it can be very difficult because you do have these employees who are saying, I want to be paid in that manner, helping them understand the challenges that causes for them, delay in getting wages, having to pay fees, being able to have that right communication and share with them there are other options that are much more advantageous to you as an employee can really help them make a better decision in the long run. We also know that 78% of those that we surveyed said that their financial health was either fair or poor. And it doesn't help that if they are getting a paper check, that they're having to pay fees in order to get their wages. It doesn't help their financial health. It's not a sustainable kind of method of getting their wages. So it's definitely expensive. It can delay access to their funds, and we have many better solutions available to them. And so why not help them understand where solutions can take them and give them some options that are better for them than getting that paper check. Again, when we did our survey, and this survey was done, by the way, in April of 2022, so a little bit, about a year ago, I guess it's been, and the employees told us, look, there are some really things that are preferred to us, like 91%, which majority of employees said they would really prefer direct deposit. And in some cases, people said, I'd love to get paid a few days early. And that was important to them as well. So being able to have an advance on the wage or being able to get paid via direct deposit was important. So there's still a small percentage that are not sold on the direct deposit method. But again, from an employer perspective, it's really our job to help them understand the value and the benefit of becoming someone who receives their wages from via direct deposit. Now, some of the tools that people said, hey, look, I really need financial wellness tools. And the top tools that were shared with us during our survey was, first of all and foremost, was having a savings program. Whether an employer is offering a savings program by themselves or if it's offered as part of, say, the pay card program, being able to put even a small amount of my wages into savings has been a huge offering and a huge benefit that people say, look, I would really like to have that benefit if I'm going to take on a pay card program. The second to that is free discounts and free financial tools. So being able to set up budgets, being able to have alerts when I overspend on my entertainment part of my budget versus my food part of my budget. Just knowing that I have financial tools at the ready that I can use to help me manage the finances that I do have. And then, of course, financial literacy and education. I don't think any tool that we provide to our employee base is going to be enough without some financial education and literacy. They need information. They need to understand, one, how to improve credit scores, how to buy a car, how to take on a loan. There's a lot of information that as employers you can share that can really help build that financial health and wellness knowledge. So what do employees want in a pay card? We mentioned early on that we're going to talk about pay cards, and really what does that bring to the employee and the employer as well? I think some of the main features are, again, immediate access to funds. When I receive a check, obviously that's going to delay. I'm going to have to go someplace to get that check cashed. But when I have a pay card in my wallet, at that point, because I'm now on direct deposit, I have the ability to get paid as quickly or more quickly than those that are getting a direct deposit to their standard or traditional bank account. We want to also make sure that they don't incur any check cashing fees. One of the really nice things about pay cards is that there are very few fees that are able to be assessed. There's only a handful of convenience fees. So I'm now able to get to all of my wages 100% fee free and not have to pay check cashing fees. And also, pay cards are Visa or MasterCard branded, so they're association branded cards. They have all the protections that a Visa or a MasterCard debit program that your local bank would offer. And they have the ability to then be accepted at all of the locations that Visa and MasterCard are accepted. And this is, in many cases, the first time that these individuals have had a Visa or MasterCard in their wallet. They also have a much reduced chance of having fraud from checks, paper checks, and that's really both an employee and an employer benefit. Having check fraud come back to you can be very costly. Other features that are important in a pay card program, obviously customer service. I'm going to have questions. I'm going to need to be able to get hold of somebody to help me understand what is my balance, what were my last few transactions, and what is available left on my account. Having the ability to get to that information 24/7 is critical. So being able to look at an app, find out exactly what my balance is, or text things like BAL to get a real-time response on what the balance is on the account is certainly an important aspect of any pay card program. Convenience, we've talked about that already. And I think in a lot of cases, as I mentioned, we have a large number of not only millennials, but now we're starting to see the Gen Z come into the workforce. Most of them are very credit adverse. They prefer debit, and they would like to have a debit card in their wallet versus credit. So that's kind of an important thing for your younger workers to have as an available option as well. And again, early access. In our program, we have the ability to allow up to 2 days early for pay. So for an example, if I get paid on Friday or every other Friday, then the deposit coming through from payroll will come through the Fed, and we'll see that transaction happen usually a day early and sometimes 2 days early. Once we know that the ACH has been processed through the Fed, we actually go ahead and fund those pay cards in advance. We get paid at Global Payments every other Friday, and I always get a text on Wednesday morning letting me know that my Netspend card has received the deposit for that day, even before the rest of the funds show up in my account, my traditional bank account, on Fridays. There's always alerts. So being able to get an alert every time you make a transaction, every time your balance changes. So for deposits, when they do hit your account, knowing that information and being able to get real-time alerts is absolutely important to the pay card users as well. Okay. And this one, it really talks about, you'll see it say the Skylight one, which is the Netspend program, but I just want to use this as a way of saying, look, this is something that for any pay card program, you want to look at these types of features. So obviously being able to be used everywhere Visa and MasterCard are offered is true across the board. Convenient and secure, that is true across the board. Being able to get to all of the account information, you're going to see that in every pay card program out there. What you may not see is some of the other things. So you may not see some of the budgeting tools. You may or may not see mobile check load capabilities. So just like with a traditional bank account, if I get a check, I want to be able to load that just using my phone and push that money into my pay card account. You may or may not see payback rewards. So that we have a merchant funded reward program that really is just like other merchant funded programs. If I happen to get lunch at, let's say, Burger King most days, it's going to know that. And McDonald's is going to push a program or a coupon to say, look, if you go to McDonald's next and you spend $10, we'll give you $3 back. So being able to have reward programs can be very beneficial to the users. And I think one of the favorite benefits or aspects is the savings feature. So I mentioned that before is one of the high points that we got from our survey. People were very interested in the ability to have a savings program and being able to set aside even a small amount of money. And so our savings program actually pays 5% APY, which is higher than most of the traditional bank savings programs offer today. And they have the ability to even upgrade their account to get 6%. And that is a free option to the cardholder once they have an account with us. And I do want to reiterate what Alan mentioned at the very beginning. Should you have any questions throughout today, you do not have to wait until the end. You may go ahead and put those in the chat, and Alan will help me make sure that I don't miss any of those questions as they come in. So please feel free to ask any questions along the way. And again, we will make sure that there's time at the end as well. We want to empower our employees' financial wellness. We've talked about a couple of areas that are important to the employee. And then again, from the employer perspective, I know each and every one of you really wants to make sure that your employees are as financially healthy as they possibly can be. And you want to offer the tools and options that make that possible. So you want them to be able to, one, keep more of their money, avoid those check cashing or bank fees where they have to take that check and get that check cashed. You want to make sure that they have very fast access to their pay, to their wages. It's critical for them to be able to get those wages. They're living generally paycheck to paycheck. So getting those wages and being able to potentially get them a few days early is really important to them. And then being able to invest in the future, not just having what I'm going to get paid today, but being able to invest and have the savings feature and being able to automatically put a certain percentage or a certain dollar amount into my account for savings purposes is really that investment in their financial future. And we also have a scholarship program, and that is very important for those individuals that are looking to go back to school to improve upon the job that they already have. So they might be a truck driver and they want to get an additional certification or license. They might be a teacher that wants to get a master's degree to further her education and improve the ability to get a raise or a promotion in her career. And so the scholarship program is available to everyone that has a Netspend card. And it's really, again, to help them get to that next level of their career and their position in order to make even more money than they are making today. Again, investing in the future of our cardholders. And of course, empowering them and giving them the tool of being able to manage all of their financials. And again, our account, it's an account. So once you get a pay card, it's different than a traditional bank account, but it is still underlying it. There is a bank account associated. And so it has the features that your traditional bank account would have, such as mobile check loads, being able to go to the app and see all of your transactions, move money, things of that nature. But in the case of pay cards, sometimes there's even additional features and benefits over and above what traditional banks offer. So being able to pay bills online, being able to track what I've spent my money on, also having a purchase cushion. So for instance, we give a purchase cushion so that if I'm trying to get some groceries at Walmart and I go a couple of dollars over, that they don't get declined because we know they're on direct deposit. We know that those $2 or $3 they went over will be covered on the next paycheck. And also being able to push money to friends and family that are within the Netspend family or within any pay card network. That is all very important to them from an employee perspective. And peace of mind. We hear a lot about the FDIC recently on the news, but these are all FDIC insured accounts. There's zero liability on the consumer as long as they report fraud in a timely manner. Again, the Visa and MasterCard rules apply here. And that gives them some confidence and comfort knowing that they're not going to be held responsible for fraud happening on their account. We take care of that. And virtual cards. So if you are one of the many people, hopefully, that know that it's probably not a good idea to use your debit card when buying things off of Amazon, right? Debit card, once a fraudster gets a hold of your debit card, they can wipe out your entire checking account. Most of us will use a credit card for that very reason, for the zero liability protection as well. But in our case, what we do is we give them a token or a one-time use number that they can use online to make purchases that then does not push their actual account out there into the internet for someone to actually steal. So that's another really helpful aspect of the pay card program. And really, when you think about it, it's you push your funds into a digital wallet. So Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, all the pays, you can actually put your pay card into one of those wallets, and then you don't even have to have the pay card on hand with you. You can actually just pay all of those different ways that you pay today. And what happens when I lose my card or I have misplaced my card? Well, we have card controls so that you can turn the card off and on based on when you do find it again. Because in general, when I lose my card, I tend to find it again in a place where I just did not realize I had put it. We also have, of course, the security features of two-factor authentication, biometric account access, and we use a secure socket layer for that. I'm not a technical person, so I won't get into the details, but again, security is important. We want to secure these accounts. These are consumer accounts, and we want to make sure that there's no one that can get access to these accounts and perpetrate any fraudulent activity. So what is it like working with Netspend, or really working with a pay card client or a pay card provider, I should say? It's generally very simple. There is an enrollment from the client perspective to enroll an individual into the pay card program, which can be done in a variety of ways, many of which are automated through the payroll systems. And there's funding options in terms of whether or not you want to fund it via ACH, which is most of what happens. Sometimes we'll see clients that want to do a real-time push to the pay card, and we do a T+2 settlement on those transactions where we actually don't collect the funds until 2 business days later. We also have inventory management. So if you order 50 pay cards today and you onboard 40 people tomorrow, we'll make sure that we know that because you're down to 10 cards, we'll send you more cards in the mail. We're also working towards having a virtual card program so that you won't have to have instant issue packs on hand, but you'll actually be able to push a virtual pay card out to users. And then for the employees, I think we've hit upon really all of the benefits that an employee has when they take on a pay card. It can be very simplistic for them as well. Once they get that instant issue pack or a virtual card, they just need to give some basic information about themselves to then enroll into the program and be able to then receive their wages and begin shopping. And again, being able to partner with someone who has the expertise and knows the payroll and pay card space very well, understands the regulations, because that's an important aspect of any pay card program, is knowing the regulations, which are different state to state. So being able to work with someone who understands those differences and can help with understanding and navigating the differences that are there, and knowing that you have a partner that really has regulation as a focus, and compliance, of course, as a focus. Being someone or a partner that has those things, that it's critical to know that you're checking the right things from an employee perspective, and you're validating these individuals are who they say they are before actually opening those accounts. And then again, knowing and managing to those state by state regulations is definitely an important aspect. And of course, there's support at every step, from the very beginning implementations all the way through having someone who is there on a day-to-day basis to help with questions and concerns and issues that might arise. And then, of course, customer care for the employees, knowing that they have someone that they can call 24/7, access to their information, so that they know where they stand, what their balance is, and what their transactions were for the last 10 transactions or so. So being able to service themselves is really important, being able to self-service on that specific account. And again, I think, we talk about pay cards in a general sense. I will spend very little time here. Netspend is a premier provider of pay cards. We'd love to work with each and every one of you. We'd love to have conversations and share what we do. But again, I just want to say that at a very high level, pay card programs out there are all really good. I'm not going to say anything negative about my competition. I think that if you have a card program today that you're happy with, I'm thrilled to know that. But if you have any needs for a new pay card program, we're absolutely here to chat with you. And I know I don't think we had any questions that came in while I was speaking. I do want to double check with Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. So I show that we do have one that came in from Megan, and she asks, we do our payroll daily. Are our team members able to get instant pay? For instance, as soon as we process the pay in-house, it appears on their card same day. I don't know if you can provide guidance on that.
I can provide guidance on that. Yes, we actually do have a solution that would help with daily pay. And bless you for doing that. I know a lot of people are doing that right now. It's become a challenge. So we have a couple of different areas that we could probably talk through that would help. We have the ability to push funds at any time during any day to pay cards instantly. So it's just a quick pre-funded account, and you can put as little or as much money in that account as you wish. And then during the day, if you need to push funds to an individual, say at the end of a shift, at the end of the day, that you absolutely have those tools. We also have some ability to do more on-demand pay type solutions as well. So it might depend on the specific scenario that you're trying to solve for. We would probably have one or two different options for how we might want to solve for that. So that's an excellent question. Thank you.
Great. Another question came in, and it asks, do you decline applicants for, I'm sorry, let me start over. Do you decline applicants for the debit card, even with bad credit scores? Thoughts on that?
Excellent question. We actually, for pay cards, the information that we require and that we gather is name, physical address, birthday, and social. We do not perform any credit checks. So if someone has written some bad checks or things like that, they do not get declined for a pay card. That's in many cases why someone would choose a pay card, is because they may be on that bad check writing list, and a bank might not offer them the traditional bank account. But yes, they will not get declined for that reason for a pay card program. So excellent question. Thank you.
All right. Another question came in. What are the convenience fees for employees? What are the fees to employers, and do employers have to do Netspend only, or can they do paper checks, bank direct deposit, and Netspend? So a lot thrown at you there.
A lot in there, but no, that's an excellent question. I like how you put that all together. Let me start with, first, you can absolutely do some direct deposit, some Netspend cards, and some paper checks. That is probably the most common way that staffing companies use Netspend is they use it as part of a trio of solutions, so to speak. And the fees, let's talk about the fees to the consumer. These are very highly regulated, so these are not fees that you'll see different among different pay card providers. The number one fee that is assessed is an out-of-network ATM fee. So in some cases, depending on the provider, it'll depend on how many fee-free ATMs are available. In most cases, you'll see around 45,000 fee-free ATMs. We actually have increased that to 80,000 fee-free ATMs. So it's very difficult to find an ATM that's not free. However, if they were to find one that's not free, then there would be a small fee assessed for that. So that's probably the biggest fee that we see happen. And again, it's just that, gosh, I'm right here. I know this is, and the ATM will tell them that there's going to be a fee. So it's not a surprise. But the convenience of it versus having to drive a mile down the street to a free one, they may say, look, I'll pay the $2. The other fees that can be assessed are if they use the card internationally. Visa, MasterCard do have a fee for transcribing the dollars from, say, euros to dollars. So there are some fees there if they use the card internationally. There are some very small fees if they, for instance, call and ask to speak to a customer service agent just to get their balance, when their balance can be available to them on the app. It's available by texting BAL. There's so many ways they can get their balance. It's the first thing that the IVR says to them when they call in. So things like that can be assessed a fee, but those are generally the only fees that you're going to see on a pay card program. And for the employer, there are generally absolutely no fees to offer up the program. The only charge, so to speak, is that we do pass through the postage. So if we send you, 50 pay cards as an example, the postage might be $5 to $10, and that's just a pass-through fee that we assess back to the client, but it's a very small amount.
Great, thank you. I wanted to continue our Q&A and ask you, Carrie, if there are any frequently asked questions that you see in your day-to-day that we might be able to provide perspective for the audience on.
Yes, one of the questions that wasn't asked, and we do get this question fairly often, is especially when we're talking about getting ready for the summertime and certain areas of your business where you start to hire a lot more younger individuals, right? So what's the age limit for a pay card? And in general, 17 years and above is they go right into the process, standard process as an adult, and they can be approved for a pay card very easily. If they're 15 or 16 years old or even 14 years old, we do require parental release for those because of the age of the individual. Because this is a banking account and there are some banking laws that kind of regulate the age that you're allowed to be an adult and get your own account, we do require parents to sign off on the ability for that individual to get an account. So the age of the individual does matter, but we can still accommodate them with just a little bit of paperwork. So that's one of the questions that I was thinking about as we were talking. And one of the other questions we get a lot is, how difficult is it to switch pay card providers? And I want to just speak to that, because if there's someone who's, slightly unhappy with the program that they have today, it's really not that difficult to switch to a new pay card provider. One of the things that you do is you kind of make a notification to the employees and let them know that as of April 1st, we're going to stop this particular program and we're going to start with a new program. And as of April 1st, everyone will get a new card, all your wages will go to this new card, etc. And then the old program, you're basically communicating to the employees that it's going to finish at whatever date that is. So they've got 90 days, 120 days, 180 days, however long you need for them to go ahead and spend the rest of the money that's left on the old pay card program. It's generally very easy for that to happen. These cards don't have high balances at any given point. Once they're paid, they're generally used to buy all of the things that are needed, and they're spent down pretty quickly. So that's generally the kinds of activities that take place to just move from one program to another. We've done it many, many times. It's, again, a simple process. And with proper communication, it's very seamless to both the employer and to the employee.
Thank you. Yeah, great insights there. Any other commonly asked questions that you can share with us, or are we pretty much wrapped up at this point?
I think the last question that I get asked a lot is, how do I successfully launch a pay card program? We still find that there are some employers out there that don't have one in place today, and they're really just curious as to, how do I make this work? How do I encourage and really do a good job of communicating to my employee base the benefits of a pay card program specifically for them? Because again, we know it's a great benefit for employers as well as employees. And one of the things I would suggest is that any pay card provider, I know that we do very much this, is to provide you with all of the marketing information, the frequently asked questions, the posters, the things that will make it easier for you to know how to communicate the pay card program properly to the employee base, and give you all of the tools that you need. So you're not having to create those on your own. They're already pre-done. We're prepared to provide those so that you can have them in hand and really make the program a roaring success, because you've got all the materials to properly communicate to your employee base. And with that, I think, Alan, unless there were some other questions, those are really the commonly asked questions that come to me when talking about pay cards.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think we can do one more question we have time for. Megan asked, can somebody transfer Netspend balances to a bank account if needed?
That's a great question. So let's say I have a Wells Fargo account and I have a Netspend account. And in fact, I do have that. So it's an easy example. I can go into my Wells Fargo account and I can actually pull money from my Netspend account. And that is a free transaction that does not cost the employee anything to do that. And I used Wells Fargo as an example, but it would be true for any bank. So that was just an example. But yes, they can absolutely pull funds right from their Netspend card right over to their bank account.
All right, thank you. So with that, we're going to close out our Q&A session. I'm going to turn it over to Jeannie at this time to close us out for today's event.
Thanks so much, Alan. Carrie, this information was wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. Please look for a post-event email with a link to the replay. And if you have any questions at all, Carrie's information is on the screen. Of course, you can reach out to Advanced Partners as well. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks all.